Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Ask a Professional series where we have professional development on a number of different topics. And today we are asking a roster artist. So we have roster artist Gavin Bird and teaching artist uh, Terrence Roberts joining us today to talk about their work. Um, and I am Lauren Rhodes. I'm Director of Grants here at the Mississippi Arts Commission, and I'm here with my colleague Charlotte Smelser.
I'm Charlotte Smelser. I'm Director of Arts Education here at the Arts Commission and excited to be a part of this conversation today, Lauren. Thanks.
Great.
So I think I'm just going to kick us off here if that's okay. And I'm going to do a quick screen share if I can find this, because one of the beautiful things about being on the roster is being able to kind of introduce yourself to a larger audience. So as I introduce Gavin today, here's Gavin's page on our website. So you can see in general the information that we like to include about the artist. All of this is provided, you provide all of this to us when you apply for the roster. So Gavin Bird is with us today. Gavin is a muralist. He's based in Jackson and does fabulous work in all areas here. I also would like to introduce Terrence Roberts, who is with us. Terrence is a storyteller and is based in Meridian as a part of his work. So I just wanted the opportunity to kind of share that page on our website so people know what to expect if they apply for the roster.
Thank you, Charlotte. And now I'm just going to go ahead and just give an overview of what the roster artist is in case we have folks that are not familiar with this program. So the Mississippi Artist roster is a listing of professional Mississippi artists who have been reviewed and approved by our staff here at the Mississippi Arts Commission, and they're available to do performances, workshops, and other presentations in a wide array of settings around the state. So schools, community arts groups, libraries, and other organizations use the roster to identify potential artists who can present or do other programs or projects with their venues. And these groups can also apply to our mini grant program to receive funding for a roster artist performance or workshop or consultation. Teaching artists are working at a professional level within their artistic discipline, but have also made arts education a central component in their work. So, teaching artists and the teaching artist roster, they're professional artists and arts educators who are available to work with schools and community organizations in developing strategies for using the arts in a variety of settings. And mini grant funds are also available to schools and organizations to hire a teaching artist or to hire them for a presentation, workshop, or residency. So the roster artists utilize this program to promote themselves to groups around the state. And artists who are approved for the roster are part of this program for 3 years. After 3 years, you have to reapply. And acceptance to the roster doesn't guarantee bookings or contracts to perform, but we do promote the roster as a whole. We don't handle booking or contract arrangements for them. And when I say we, I mean the Arts Commission. But the roster can be a useful tool for artists to promote themselves and expand their performance or workshop opportunities. So that's a little about the artist roster. And now I want to go over to our artists, Gavin and Terrence. And I'm going to just start with a general question about, give us an overview of your work and your art form. How long have you been on the artist roster and how has it been beneficial to your work as an artist? And who wants to start us off? Terrence or Gavin? Any volunteers?
Uh, I could start us off. Yeah, so I've been on the artist roster for about a year, and it's directly benefited helping gain traction and getting additional work. I've had nonprofit organizations reach out to me after searching through the artist roster or communicating with individuals at Mississippi Arts Commission, guiding through the roster to find work that suits what they're seeking. And with me painting murals, a lot of it's public facing and large scale public art. Um, so it's led to uh, mural work as well as consultation work, going out and doing site visits, and it's it's really benefited as a additional source for marketing my materials, and it's a great tool.
Okay, thank you, Gavin. What about you, Terrence?
Well, I have been part of the roster. My first application to the artist roster was in 2009 for the 2010 year. So I started as a part of the artist roster. 2011, I was added to the teaching artist roster, and they were both of them provided me great opportunities. Um, I was a community storyteller for fun. So this gave me exposure that I wasn't expecting and became very beneficial, especially doing like library work, things like that, for summer reading programs. The teaching artist roster really connected me with schools and whole schools that were looking to bring in people to instruct and help them with what was going on. So I had a number of schools across the state who had access. I don't know, are we still printing? We're not printing any longer. But there was a time that we had these cute little books, and, and you could open up, and my face was there, a little bio that we now have on the website. And so I found that to be really effective with schools looking to bring someone in. My art form is storytelling. Uh, with storytelling, I also go deeper into theater. And so I use that in the classroom.
So, Terrence, we've kind of segued from the book to your own page on our
Right.
website, which is what I shared just a minute ago. Yeah, so we have that. That's really interesting because what we have here is like everything from 1 year to, if my math is correct, about 15 years on the roster. So this is really exciting. I'm curious for both of you if you might be able to offer a little more insight. You both talked about kind of peripherally about how you're using the roster, but maybe you could each share, give us a little more insight on how this roster has been an asset for your work.
Um, yeah, so directly actually applying for the artist roster ended up helping uh some get together some materials for myself as well. One thing that I did not have prior to applying for the roster was a artist resume. It was just my previous working resume, and so having uh that as a requirement for the artist roster, now it serves as my artist resume that I have on my website, and I have used that as material to put together for packets anytime that I directly contact a client. Now, as far as the roster serving its purpose, it is directly led to, like I mentioned beforehand, some consultation work. I've had nonprofit organizations reaching out to me, such as the town of Olive Branch. They wanted to have me go over to Olive Branch to um, do an assessment on what would be some good mural locations, as well as the town of Greenville. Directly, it would have been Washington County Economic Alliance. They've actually commissioned me to paint a couple murals now. Which I believe may have also been partially funded through Mississippi Arts Commission funding as well. And the they found my work through the artist roster, and with it being one organization, like I said, it's led to a couple murals. So not only is it just the one time, but it's gotten me connected, and they have become a repeat client. So um, it's been keeping me busy.
Excellent. Terrence.
The roster, man, it has been a very valuable component even the application has been a very valuable piece. I know that I use my application to develop my website. Everything that was asked for in the application is a tab on my website in one way, shape, or form. Um, it helped me give a much better understanding of the work that I wanted to do. And it was really good for people to be able to see you. The idea that you've been vetted, that we know what we're going to get, that there's an organization that says you can trust that their work is good, has been very helpful. Not only here, but I've found work out of state from people who looked at Mississippi's roster and hired me to come go out of state to do work. So, because they trust the vetting process of Mississippi's Arts Commission. So, all of that has been really, really important to me. One of the things that um, looking at this whole process, it really made me a better, not only a better artist, but definitely a better teaching artist because of the expectations. So it meant I had to make sure that I was on point and on my game. And because of that, I think it led to opportunities both through Mississippi Arts Commission as well as like partner whole schools and then other organizations that support say, hey, we need a teaching artist, someone who can come in and lead a forum on Black history or do this. And they go to the roster, they see my crazy face and they go, that guy. And it's been great. I'm a storyteller, so if I talk too much, please tell me to be quiet.
No, it's all good information. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm curious to hear more about how each of you approach organizations about hiring you as an artist roster artist. I love knowing that people are just reaching out to you on their own, which means that it's working. But of course, we can't guarantee that's going to happen. How do you approach organizations? Are you cold calling folks? Is it um, are you getting introductions? Are you sending out marketing materials, social media? Can you talk more about how you are, how you're marketing yourself, how you're approaching organizations and clients?
Uh, I do occasionally cold call in a sense. I think one organization in particular that I could think off the top of my head would be Mississippi Main Street, and this was the connection that was that I created, or I did not create this connection because it was at the State Arts Conference, and so they had a panel at the State Arts Conference and directly handing over packets. So, and this is media that I put together that uh, was derived from the application for the artist roster. But as far as marketing myself, a lot of it is passive with the work that it is that I do. Every single piece that I create, it's primarily public facing or public art. So a lot of it comes from word of mouth. And so whenever certain organizations or individuals or businesses see these works, it's a lot of question of who did this. And then if it's not directly from those pieces, if somebody is interested in a mural, they look on the artist roster. And I know we have a number of mural artists in the state of Mississippi. And sometimes I'm selected out of the list of from the artist roster. And I think for marketing myself, one of the more or less passive things that I do is uh, really promoting on social media as much as possible. It's just, everybody most people have an Instagram account or Facebook, and really staying on top of that is what leads to additional work. And uh, things such as this webinar here as well, and with the connection with Mississippi Arts Commission and the roster, anything that um, I utilizing social media, but creating just these public art pieces, it does catch the attention of different newspapers and uh, magazines, such as Delta Magazine. They picked up an article on one of my works, and so it's a lot of it a lot of it tends to end up being passive. The more work that I'm able to get and the more work that I execute, it's just been building blocks from there.
Well, I love knowing that you were at the State Arts Conference. I know you were too, Terrence, but that you had also a packet ready. Can you just talk a little bit more about like what you had some materials with you that you were ready to like give to folks that you met? And is that what did I understand that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I put together a packet, and I use this for cold calling, or sometimes just if I meet a connection, I try to keep one in my vehicle at least. But usually I've just got a small binder or a folder where I have a stack with my artist resume, bio, artist statement, and then I have a portion of my portfolio. You know, a lot of these murals that I paint also incorporate community engagement events, and so the murals that I showcase primarily encompass some of these events. For example, this project that I completed in Utica, Mississippi, um, we had multiple community engagement events, such as the residents of Utica ultimately building the design, giving their input, telling the history and stories. And this went as far as residents going to the retirement homes to communicate with, people that don't have accessibility to come to these events and tell their ideas and their history. And so having these in the packet really just shows some of my works that have been the most what's the word I'm looking for? Just very in-depth projects. And so presenting that shows probably my most in-depth portfolio that I can, while minimizing pages so I don't have a 40-page packet to hand over and just try to keep it around 10 pages. But it's something I've got in digital format and physical format. Whenever somebody expresses interest in a mural or having some public art, that's something that I hand out to individuals and organizations.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. How
Of
about you,
course.
Terrence?
Man, I'm trying to think this through. So the big thing for me, focusing as a teaching artist, one of the biggest things for me was attending and being able to provide workshop sessions through the Mississippi Whole School Summer Institute. That, I think the first year I was on the roster, I was invited to attend, and we could set up a little booth. So I show up, I'm dressed in my full West African formal attire, walking around with a little drum and meeting people. I think the next year I actually applied to lead a workshop, was accepted. That was very helpful because after seeing what you can do, they're looking for people. So they're like, let's bring this guy in. There are also opportunities through there, like 3 minutes and a microphone, which was something that we've done for several years in the past. So you can get up and just, as an artist, especially as a performing artist, give them a glimpse of what you can bring. And so understanding that I'm a master storyteller and that I can teach your students the skills, that I can articulate not just how to tell a good story, but guide them into the process that they can tell good stories. And then helping teachers understand how they can use it in the work that they do. Then you get word of mouth. You are at this school in Tupelo. We want you to come here. And then I started working where if a school, say a school in Jackson hired me to come and do a one and done, like a 1 day demonstration, then I would contact other schools and say, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Uh, this cuts down on a lot of travel, a lot of different things. Would you like to bring me to your school while I'm already in town? And so do a lot of that, did a lot of that. One of the other things that I did was to make sure that I sent out to schools. Um, I have what I call my electronic media kit. And so inside of that electronic media kit is basically a folder that I would email. Now, initially, I used to mail out stuff, but um, now, it's just an email kit. It has all the things that's on my application. Uh, but let them see the work that I do. Visual presence is so important. So I developed a YouTube channel to be able to show clips and highlights of me performing or me working inside of a classroom so that they would be able to just see how I interact, not just on stage, but inside of the classroom. Then I also have Facebook pages and I have YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. I mean, I try to use a little bit of anything and everything. So if you type in my name, then you'll find me because there's another Terrence Roberts who's older than me that was one of the Little Rock Nine. So he is much more famous and he's a doctor. And so it's like, how do you set yourself apart? So anywhere and everywhere, I try to work those things just so people can see you. Word of mouth has been huge for me. Um, Teachers talk. And as a teaching artist, you want teachers talking and so that they're sharing with schools that are outside of where you are and they're bringing you in. So all of that, I mean, I've used everything, including letter writing campaigns, um, brochures and flyers, but now mostly of it, everything is electronic.
Can I ask a follow-up question about reaching out to schools since
Yes.
I think that's your primary audience or a lot of your audience too. I think that's brilliant to reach out to schools in the area that you're traveling. When you're looking to, reach out to a new school you haven't worked with before, do you look for a specific teacher? Are you contacting the principal or like how do you reach out to them? Who are you looking to contact?
That's such a good question that I can't answer. Um, I'm the story weaver. Everybody knows. Uh, no, I usually work within the system. And so you can go online and you can look at all the schools that either currently or have been part of the whole school system. And I really work with those schools because I know that I may be something they might be interested in.
Hmm.
So as opposed to cold calling a school that doesn't understand arts integration, I go to a school that maybe has been in the program or one that's currently in the program.
Gotcha.
And especially the early years before some of my work has changed, my flexibility now is very limited to be able to do residencies. So yeah, I'm a lot more discriminating. So I don't really get out there pushing myself. Performance wise is a whole different story. But as far as that residency work and trying to work in schools, I try to limit, well, I have to limit what I do.
Thank you.
I'm really interested. I've been taking some notes here because I'm really interesting. So where I'm going with this question is the infamous word business plan. But what I hear both of you saying is so interesting because I jotted down a few things like the broad expanse of where you work now. You're talking about places you've been, places you're going. I hear you talking about how it ranges across so many. You talked about cold calls, social media, word of mouth, the tabs on your web page, as you were talking about, talk about your packet. So I know that this did not happen mysteriously and magically overnight. I mean, that's a given that you had to start working a plan and figure out how to put these pieces together. Whether you call it business plan or not, that's really what it is. It depends on how comfortable you are using that phrase. But I'm wondering if you could also share this a little bit about how the roster either helped you go down that pathway or maybe how it helped you refine this in a sense and kind of how it continues to support you as your business plan continues to grow and develop and morph and shift and change. Literally, Terrence, as you were saying, from doing mail outs to now everything is digital, we know that we have to stay current on top of everything. So maybe you could both share with our audience a little bit about how this supports your business component and the plans that you have in your business.
Uh, yeah. Do you mind if I give just a short summary of how I fell into painting murals?
I
Because
would
I
love
think
that.
think that kind of leads into my business plan. Because this has all been on accident. I I started painting murals. I was really actually just trying to figure out what I was going to do for my career creatively. I touched on apprenticing at a tattoo shop for 2 years, and then discovered that wasn't what I wanted to do. I thought it was what I wanted to do, and then tried to dabble in graphic design, and then fell into mural painting on accident. There was a graffiti artist who it was over at the skate park off of Mill Street, which unfortunately no longer exists. It's since been bulldozed. It was a graffiti artist. I was at the skate park skateboarding, and he had a showed up to the skate park with spray paint all over his hands. And I've got spray paint on my nails 24/7 now. It just does not come off. And I saw the spray paint on his hands. I was like, oh man, do you have any of these spray cans? I'd love to actually try painting a mural with spray paint. I see these graffiti artists just knocking out, big pieces really quickly. And so he gave me some spray paint. And so I painted, I think it was like a blue heron or something. It was about 3 feet tall, maybe 2 feet wide. And it took me 10 or 15 minutes to knock it out. When if I was painting that with brushes, it would have taken me half a day. And um, it was small. It wasn't very detailed, but I was like, wow, this is really fun. So I started painting, or started buying spray paint, and this I started painting the skate park full of murals, and the property owner really encouraged it. And so I covered the whole skate park. It was about 2,000 square feet of murals. But sorry, just backing up a little bit, I discovered spray paint is really expensive. 2,000 square feet of murals is a lot. And so I actually started a GoFundMe after painting several of them, and then asked the community, hey, do you like this? And so ended up meeting and surpassing the GoFundMe, and took a portion of that because it surpassed what I was expecting. Took the portion that I was asking for and directly bought all that with all spray paint, and the rest of it donated back into the skate park for concrete. So after painting this whole skate park, that served as my physical portfolio. And then it led to my first commissions. I think it was a residential commission on somebody's boathouse. And then with that physical portfolio, whenever Deion Sanders was coaching for JSU, Barstool Sports was shooting a docu-series on Deion Sanders. And so they were shooting B-roll throughout Midtown and captured my mural work, and they managed to find me and get in contact with me, which led to one of my larger commissions, and it's fully documented. And they filmed me painting this mural, and it was used as the introduction to the docuseries for each episode. And so that was one commission that really helped kickstart me being able to start painting murals professionally. From there, that has served as a form of marketing because people just watch this episode, all these episodes, and it's all on YouTube. It's for free. And from the first commissions for murals, it just has not stopped. It's I mean, I have slow periods and but after each one of these public facing projects, public art, it's word of mouth and somebody sees this. And so developing my business plan it's been just kind of passively just what works. And I also have to thank my wife tremendously, Taylor Bird. She has a master's in business administration, so she has helped develop my social media and telling me what works and what does not work from the things that I overlook, and putting together videos. I'm just trying to record all of my processes and uploading those to YouTube as well as social media. And that's led to me doing cold calls, and I'm always practicing just different strategies. And but the most effective form of marketing for me has been word of mouth.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I would say it's not even passive, it's organic.
Organic, thank
Yeah,
you.
because
Yeah.
passive makes it sound like it's not a lot of work, which it is a lot
Yeah,
of work.
yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. I love knowing that.
Organic is what I was thinking also. And honestly, Gavin, while you were going through that, in my mind, I was thinking, gosh, I wonder what the delivery people are thinking when they keep bringing box after box after box of spray paint to your house. I'm like,
Oh
oh my
my
God,
gosh.
that's wild.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and after every single project, I still have got spray paint left over. Great, and I still have to order because I run out of one color, and then
Yeah.
I over order, and so now I think in total, as far as the amount of spray paint that I have on me at a time, I've got a whole truck bed full, and then also the back of my cab full of spray paint. It's a
That's
lot.
wild.
Yeah,
That's wild. But you also have Taylor, so that's great. Yes, she's
yes,
pretty
yes.
fabulous. Yeah. Okay, great. So Terrence, tell us kind of how you're working your business plan here.
Oh, I don't know if my work, I don't know if I'm working my business plan or if it's working me.
I got
Uh,
that.
at this particular point in my life and career. Um, I think I ran across really early a great book called The Story Biz, Diane de la Casas. She's passed away, great storyteller, but great business mind. Um, kind of like Gavin was talking about, my entrance into this work was also accidental. It was just me being a dad who loved to tell stories to his kids. And then when they started school, I would go and tell stories to their class. And then it morphed into something more. So the business plan for me was very helpful, shifting the identity from the community parent to a professional artist. And that was really, really important. You know, that when you reach out and you hand someone a business card, boom, you know, with your name on it, your picture on it. And it's like, yeah, give me a call or and email me and we'll talk, as opposed to, hey, can you come Thursday and tell a story to my class? And it's like, well, things have kind of changed. Um, so I think that's been a really, really big piece. Helping me to see it as a business was also very important. Um, because I started off, I can remember the, I guess it was the, yeah, 2009. But I remember the reviews, and it's like, I made the roster, no problem. But one of the reviews was like my resume. It says he has so much volunteer stuff, or what appears to be volunteer stuff, because I was doing stuff in nursing homes and all, anywhere. You asked me to tell a story, I'd go. And So now then I became more strategic of putting in what I was doing, and my resume now only included the things that I was really being paid to do. Even my narrative, I still volunteer and do work, but I limit myself to like maybe 4 things a year and really kind of do that. So the this whole process for me simply took it from the art that I would do for free to now understanding that even though I would do it for free, the value needs to be respected and the work that I'm doing needs to be respected. And I have to respect myself enough, and not just me, but literally all the other struggling or starting out artists who are saying, if you keep giving it away, they'll never pay me. So it's like, it's not just for me, but it's also those who are coming behind me and honoring those who came before me in this work and saying what we do is a valuable part of our society and recognize this. Don't just throw us out there as, oh yeah, why don't you just come do something? But we're business people as well.
Do, neither of you has really talked a lot about your website. Do you mind if I put a link to your website in the chat so the people viewing can see your website? Are you okay with me doing that?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Mine
Okay,
needs work. That's
there we
I'm
go.
thinking about a mini grant so I can go ahead
Yes, great plug for
and
the mini grant.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I keep saying it and just haven't done it. But yes, mini grant
Yeah.
to upgrade it.
Yeah, mini grants are great too for like new headshots, website work,
Mhm.
all of that stuff. And I think one thing that we notice a lot on our side is when people are applying for the roster and they don't have a website, maybe they only have a Facebook page, and that's fine. That won't get you turned down for the roster. But I think when people are looking to hire someone, they want to see that that person has a professional web presence beyond just a social media page. So yeah, that's great to know. I think this question kind of flows into what you were just talking about, Terrence. And, both of you, it sounds like started off doing your work for free just because you really loved it and cared about your art form and were trying and experimenting, which I think just shows that you're true artists at heart. But how do you then decide what to charge? And how do you, you don't have to get into the specifics of what you're charging, but especially as you grow in your craft, and maybe you're raising your prices as you become more in demand or you have, more experience behind you. So talk a bit about how you've come to your pricing structure and how you make sure you're charging a fair wage for yourself.
I can jump into that one. I had no clue what to charge, and no one wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
So what I did was start checking out the storytelling world nationwide and finding communities that were similar to mine, storytellers, teaching artists that had good websites and people that I can contact and say, hey, what do you charge to do this? And because your community is my side. If I was in Los Angeles, uh, I may have a completely different pricing scale. But for where we are in the state, I looked. Normal, Oklahoma was one. There was another city. This is what these folks were charging, so that's what I started charging. Um, and come to find out, I'm probably still too cheap. To be totally honest, I know I can remember years ago doing some work with a library association, and I quoted them a price, and then they actually came close to doubling it because she was like, "You're not charging enough." And so, which was really great that they didn't take advantage of the fact. So then I changed my scale, obviously, um, to that. But I had no clue. I had no clue. But that's been a really big piece for me. I looked at other artists where they were doing similar things and then adapted that for me. I have friends who I have a friend that jokes, and I'm not there yet, but her statement to me was, "I don't get off my couch for less than blank amount of dollars," and I'm like, "Check that out! I'll get off my couch for free." So yeah.
Well, well, and I think it also like it's okay to do free work if it's something you care about, and it sometimes it depends who the client is and what the
Hmm.
kind of work is too. So I think that's something to keep in mind. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and, I uh was trying to figure out how I was going to charge for my work as well. In the very beginning, I had no idea. And I think I tried to do an hourly rate at first, but the problem is that um, you know, uh, as you do this longer, the more efficient you start to become as well. And so, um, I uh, figured out a formula for myself, and just building that is really part of my business plan as well. Just to it's the skeleton of how I operate, I guess. So really, I charge based on square footage, and so with my first contact with a new client, the first things that I asked for them is, will you send me a picture of the site? Will you send me a picture of the ground in front of the mural site, for any kind of lift equipment that's required, or is it stable? Am I gonna have to get a boom lift, or could I use a scissor lift, or is it going to be short enough to where I could use ladders? Um, so getting the picture of that site and then asking for the dimensions down to, doesn't need to be this inches, just square footage, width and height. And from there, I'm typically able to work up a quote. And like Terrence, you said, other people do in different locations charge different amounts for this kind of work. And so uh, I think one of my first questions is, what's your budget? So that would be really, my first approach before I give a quote. And with square footage, it also allows me, if it's a 2,000 square foot building, that's a very large project, but they only have this budget for this amount. Well, we could still paint a mural, but we'll just shrink it down. We don't have to paint the entire side of the building. And so it gives me flexibility to still work within their budget. Um, but it does also, the more that I'm doing this, I used to say yes to everything. But there is a certain dollar amount that I'm I'm really willing to work, because what a lot of people don't see behind the scenes before I start painting this, I'm drafting design work, I'm putting together mock-ups, and so a lot of these projects will take up to a month to complete, and in total time, and then the material costs as well. And so early on, there were a lot of projects where I would complete and thinking that I'm going to be able to use this money to pay my bills or put food on the table, and then realize I think I just broke even.
Yeah.
So yeah, building that skeleton and formula is really helped, and it makes things really efficient as well. So it's not the back and forth, and figuring out what equipment you need, and then also travel. If it's good ways away and it's something I'm going to be driving back and forth, I usually like to tack on a per diem of sorts for hotel stays or gas, food. That's really important to do, because that's also something that will quickly eat into your project's travel expenses. So factoring that in if travel is required for what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, Lauren, I don't know if you receive this question much, but regularly, when new people are applying to the roster, they will quite often ask me, "So, how much should I charge?" or "How much does everyone else charge?" Which, of course, is not something that we give out to people because you're the professional, you charge what you charge. But yeah, I don't know if you get those questions, but I have received those questions before.
Yeah, and I've seen applications from organizations come through where they're paying an artist an amount, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is way too low. Like you
Yeah,
have, you have a $1,000 up to $1,000 grant you can apply for, and they're using a very small portion of that, and it's like, I mean, yeah,
mhm,
that's on the artist to ask for more, and I think organizations would be willing
absolutely.
to.
I
Yeah.
agree. And I hear both of you saying, knowing what your locale can bear, what they can take also, but also uh, you have to cover your expenses. You've got to make sure that your professionalism is paid for. But that kind of makes me think, so this whole conversation today is about the roster because we are entering the deadline. We're approaching the deadline for applications to the roster. So since you guys have been in there from 1 to 15 years and experiencing what I hear you both saying is lots of success also with this as a part of your marketing plan to be able to use this. Wonder if you could give our audience a few tips on their application. If you're hanging out with your buddies and they're asking you, hey, can you tell me a little more about this? How should I fill this out? Or how should I go about this? What are some tips that you might share in regard to building out your application?
Start early.
Yay!
Start
Answer.
early. Um, I think that is probably the most important piece because there's just so many little components. If you don't have, for performing artists, I don't know about visuals. So, but as a performing artist, I have to have video. I have to have certain things to present. Uh, I have to do a lesson plan. And not only do I have to have a lesson plan, but it needs to be in a certain template. And you may have a lesson plan or you may have never done a lesson plan. So you need to familiarize yourself because as a teaching artist, you want to be able to speak the language of your schools, your teachers. And that's huge. And you may know your art form, but if you can't translate that to your teachers, then you're not going to get asked back. And so that's really, really huge. So I think those are some of the big things. See what's there, go through it, take a look, have time, think about who you want to ask to send references. All of these things I think are just really, really big. But as a performing artist, you really want to just look through everything and make sure that you know what you're doing. Lesson plans are so big. Literally, that very first year that I started learning to become a teaching artist, the first year I applied to the performing artist roster or the artist roster. The second year, I applied to the teaching artist roster. And I took as much training as possible. And I was going back through an email. I keep everything, but I was going back through an email where I was kind of whining and about this is just so much work and I don't understand it. And they were like, well, you don't have to do this. And it's like, which made me just say, well, no, I do. And so, so I really I bulked up. But I think the big thing is the earlier you start, the more you see your needs, the better off you'll be having a solid um, application that gets approved because not everybody gets approved the first time. So,
Yeah. Thanks, thanks. And Gavin, I know, so you've been on the roster for about a year, so you've only been through the application process one time at this point because you're on the roster for a 3-year cycle. So maybe the question for you would be, yeah, tips, but what were some pieces that you, maybe some things, recognitions that you had, insights after having gone through that? Like, next time I'm going to, whatever.
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, I think starting early, don't wait till the last day to put submit your application. And I touched on this a little bit already, but one of the big things, probably the thing that I had worked on the longest for this application was the artist resume because I did not have one put together. And so if you don't have an artist resume, uh, I would put one together because even if you don't get accepted and you don't have an artist resume, you're really just helping yourself by putting that together. Everything that is asked for in that application, I feel is something that would benefit you in the long run to have in the first place. Um, yeah, putting that together, and then I think it was just submitting some portfolio pieces and ask for artist bio, artist statement, and yeah, these are all things that I have in my packet and on my website. And Terrence, I know you said that you have pretty much the skeleton of this for your website as well. So you could kill two birds with one stone if you don't have these resources together for yourself. And if you don't get accepted, then um, you have all this material together for yourself as well. And like I said before, uh, the artist roster has really opened up a lot of avenues and opened up a lot of inquiries as well. And I've got some current inquiries that are hopefully building into actual clients. And it's a great, great tool.
That's exciting. Yay, great.
Yeah, and just for anyone listening, always tell folks that they should apply for an organization mini grant to hire you. Because that's going to expand their budget even more and, open up opportunities for them. So that's always something to keep in mind. Well, with our last remaining minutes, I just want to, open it up to either of you if there's anything else you'd like to share about your practice, your work as an artist with the artist roster, maybe any other pieces of advice you'd like to give to folks who want to be on the artist roster. Anything else you'd like to say?
Sure. Um, really quickly, the gifts that you have as an artist, I'm kind of one of those introverted type people with all extroverted gifts, which is really funny. Um, but the gifts that you have, people deserve to see and experience. So if this is something you love, then allow those gifts to make room for you and embrace it, go for it. There's a moment in every artist's life that, or at least in mine, where I was working something else. And then at that point, I was like, I can't do this and this at the same time. But then it kind of got to the point where the choice was clear and I can work every day or I can experience my passion every day and get paid for it. And I chose that. It was scary, but you don't have to do that the first day. But our world needs beauty. And the more you offer beauty to our world, the better our world will be. So if you're on the fence, step out and make the world a little more beautiful with your art.
Thank you.
Uh, yeah, what the Terrence just mentioned is, you know, having that point in time where you may be working and you're also doing art, and you know, you might start um being able to uh you're doing a bunch of art, and you might start being able to pay some bills, or you're actually making a profit on your art at a certain point. And I am thankful to be able to pursue art full time now, and I've been painting murals for full time for 2 years, a little over 2 years. And for the longest time, or yeah, for 2 years prior to that, I was painting murals while also working a full-time job. So I was working full-time and then painting murals on the weekends. And it just becomes a point of my weekends are full painting murals, but then I'm having to go back to work, and this is what I want to do. And frankly, yeah, I feel like a rock star painting murals, but then now I'm back at work. And the uh there's a certain point where just receiving enough commissions, and I was um blessed enough to have enough commissions to where I thought it was the right time. But even had I not had one big commission that I thought was going to be that point, uh, I think even doing it earlier and just taking the leap would have been the right move. Because if you're devoting that much extra time to your art, you're getting that organic marketing for yourself as well, and it does organically grow. And between that period of 2 year growth while I was working a job, I mean, it quadrupled after I was able to pull the trigger and start painting full time.
That is so great. That's so,
Thank you.
Lauren, you want to grab that question out of the chat, or you want me to?
Go for it, Charlotte. You do it.
Okay, so we have a question for you guys. It says, I find myself stopping from applying because I don't currently exhibit my work. I find myself facilitating lots of teaching, and I'm collecting a ton of skill sets as I try to have new things to teach my students. How important do you think it is to be an exhibiting artist?
And it
Since I
sounds like,
don't,
yeah, go ahead, Terrence.
yeah, I was trying to give it to Gavin because it's obviously much more of a visual than a performing piece. It's hard to be a storyteller if you don't tell stories. Um, but I think just really quickly, giving him a chance to get his thoughts together. Um, I think people, like I said before, people deserve to see what you do. Um, you don't have to try to just let people see, and maybe you'll find that you enjoy it more than you realize. But don't let that be the reason not for not applying. Um, yeah, don't let that be the reason that you don't apply.
Yeah, and just to touch a little bit on the business side of things with this question, yeah, I think it still absolutely is important to apply to the roster, even if you're not currently exhibiting your work in, let's say, a gallery or anything like that. But it does, even if you don't have your work currently exhibiting, but you do have a portfolio that you're able to share, um, there are a lot of opportunities for contracts with tourism. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna say any names for this, but there's um, opportunity that came across my table for really a gallery is seeking artists to um, have a work just presented in different places all over the state, and it's many artists, and they're not necessarily artists that are have had their work shown in galleries, but it is um, it's there are just a lot of opportunities for nonprofit organizations or private entities, even uh, potentially collectors. I think just it's another tool to help get your name out there.
And I will say from the just a person as someone who's reviewing these applications, it's more important to have a clear idea of what someone can hire you to do and what service you'll be providing rather than how many galleries have you exhibited your work in. So especially for visual artists, we need to know, are you wanting organizations or schools to hire you to do something in the classroom? Are you going to be doing, consulting with teachers? Are you going to be painting a mural? Like, what are the services that you are going to be providing, and how can you demonstrate past experience of demonstrating those services? So, am I getting that right, Charlotte? Would
Yes,
you
I think
concur?
so.
Okay.
And your statements actually are making me think also this all builds into your business plan. Who are you and what services are you providing for these people? And this roster now is a platform that is another element added to your business plan to help support that and help support you in your work and finding more work. So some artists are exhibiting artists, some are not necessarily exhibiting artists, but creating. So, and creating for others and doing. And then also, I see a question, is exhibiting presenting something that teaching artists need to consider as well? Some teaching artists do exhibit their work because they are professional artists and professional teaching artists, and some do not. So I think it still all goes back, from our perspective at the agency, I think it still goes back to what is your purpose? What is your intent? What is it that you are doing? And, you as an artist. So, Lauren, I think this has been a great conversation today.
Oh
And
my gosh,
I know we've
yes.
killed our time here and had such a wonderful conversation. I would wish we had more time. This has been great. So,
Yeah, thank you so much, Gavin and to Terrence. I really appreciate you guys being spending time with us today and sharing your expertise.
so
Thank
anybody who
you.
wants to
Thank
know
you.
more about these two, go to the website and look at their page that they have there. And I also sent in the chat their individual websites that they have, but they also have a page on the MAC website. So I don't know about you, Lauren, but I hope to see more applications coming
Yes,
off my desk as a result of
definitely.
this.
Yeah. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.